now. Within this giant spending bill that we've been talking about that Congress has passed, really, I think the bill came out at 2 a.m. last week, and it's pretty crazy. It's like $1.1 trillion in spending, a lot of wasteful spending. This is just another example of how out of control the federal government has gotten, not even talking about the states and everything else, but the federal government just continues to spend and putting it all on our credit card to be paid off by the fiat currency, the Federal Reserve. But one good thing did come across in this bill. It got snuck in out of the, how many pages was this? 1,603 page federal spending measure. They actually put in this bill a provision that would basically legalize or decriminalize medical marijuana on the federal level. We've seen a number of states, it's in here it actually says, I believe 32 states have already approved or at least decriminalized medical marijuana, meaning that if you're caught with it, you will not go to jail. Most of those states do allow doctors to write prescriptions. And there's even a federal program that most people don't realize that is shipping joints to a few dozen people. It actually got enacted in the 80s. It was done away with by the Reagan and Bush administration, but there are people that are literally getting these giant tins of joint cigarettes. So it's kind of amazing. But what's happening right now is they actually snuck in a provision in this 1,603 page federal spending bill that will end the prohibition on medical marijuana. So we've seen a huge debate over marijuana. First off, we can go into the facts, whether you're for or against it. The facts are there have been 0 deaths associated directly with marijuana. There's definitely been deaths associated with people drinking and doing marijuana or just doing something stupid in general. But the marijuana being the cause of death has really been 0. There's no related cases. So even if you compare marijuana to legal drugs like alcohol or tobacco, or even worse, the biggest killer right now in the drug world is actually legal drugs and their prescription painkillers, which are really opiates, so a legal form of heroin. If you didn't know, one of the main reasons that I believe it went into Afghanistan is for the poppy production, because that's what produces the painkillers and the opium and the heroin. And we saw that once the U.S. went into Afghanistan, poppy production went up, and now Afghanistan used to be about 6% of the total poppy production and opium trade. Now it's about 93% of the global production of poppy and opium trade. So just that fact alone shows you what's really going on in Afghanistan. But this is pretty interesting that at least they've put this into the bill. There's a ton of things that I disagree with on this bill, on this spending bill. But basically, they're going to try to push this through. It's exactly what the Democrats want. And the reason they're going to push this through is to increase the spending. And they could say, raising the debt limit doesn't raise the debt. That's absolutely false. It raises the debt. You have to ask who owns that debt. The majority of that debt is owned by the Federal Reserve. There are definitely individual investors in other countries that are buying bonds to cover a lot of that debt as well, but obviously the majority is the Federal Reserve. So the victory is within this bill. This bill still has to pass through the Senate, and it still has to get signed by the president, which is expected to happen because of all the other goodies that they've thrown in. So at least one good thing has happened out of this bill, although a number of negatives. But at least it looks like medical marijuana is at least going to be decriminalized from the federal standpoint. Although now it looks like the fight to move on is for the entire legalization of all marijuana. And this is the strongest signal we have achieved from Congress. The politics have really shifted. Congress has been slow to catch up with the states and the American people, but now it's finally catching up, and that's by Bill Piper, who is a lobbyist for the Drug Policy Alliance. And Representative Sam Farr, a Democrat from Carmel, California, had the support of large numbers of Democrats for years, and enough Republicans have finally joined them, where this actually got 49 Republican votes. They approved that, and it looks like medical marijuana is going to be okay from the government standpoint. Now, you're not going to see government outposts for medical marijuana, but we have seen, especially in states like California and other states that have had medical marijuana, and they even have dispensary stores where you can walk in and purchase it. We've seen federal raids on a number of those stores from Washington, Colorado, Oregon, and California, and that should end a lot of those raids. I don't know if it's going to end those federal raids on states that are completely legalized, but in California, this should end the federal raids. More importantly, is all of these stores, since it was illegal on the federal level, had to pay for everything in all cash because they weren't allowed to open up bank accounts, and they weren't even allowed to pay their taxes in anything other than all cash, and it caused a lot of problems. So hopefully when this new law passes and gets enacted, we'll see a lot of these dispensaries being able to actually open up bank accounts and to accept credit card transactions just like a normal business. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that come about during this new decision. So we'll keep you updated on if this passes and what happens with that. This has been Now Daily. Subscribe and comment below, and tune in for more. Talk to you later.